The last technique that I like to use during portrait sessions is using exposure. It's something I've been practicing lately. In order to utilize best the portrait sessions in the time that we have, I've wanted to figure out how can I get the most amount of portraits taken in the shortest amount of time. So what I like to do is, I like to take one photo of the couple that's more classic and exposed for the skin, but at the same time, a few moments later, I drop the exposure down a few stops to get a more silhouette look and to get the sky more exposed, which gives us a more dramatic effect. Basically, I've got two portraits from the same scene in the same moment. Another way that I use exposure during my portrait sessions is as I use exposure to make the couple pop out of the backdrop. Basically, by using different exposures, you can make the separation between the couple happen more dramatically. As well as using this exposure technique to get more out of my portrait session, I also use exposure to be able to separate the wedding couple from the backdrop. Rather than simply blending into the landscape, by using different exposures, you're able to pop the wedding couple out of the scene and draw more attention to them than the beautiful landscape. And so here we have the last method of composition, which is using exposures. And like I was saying, this is something I'm learning to use more and more to just really maximize and get most out of my portrait session, because often I only have 15-30 minutes to get as many photos in different styles in one session. So what I mean by using exposure for composition is, something I've been trying often lately is, I like to take different exposures to get different styles of photo in one session. So here I have a really underexposed photo to get a more dramatic and silhouette style photo from Ben Iono's wedding. But this next photo, I bumped up the exposure a little bit more, and it's a totally different photo. Their faces are more exposed, it's more light. I mean, the clouds aren't as dramatic, but it's just a different style of photo. So using exposure, we can get a different style of photo, and it's a great way of composing the shot. In this next photo, this is another example of how we can use exposure to compose well and to make the couple really stand out. I was taking this photo of James and Erica under this huge tree in the middle of Sydney, but I noticed that earlier when I had placed them, they were more in this area right here where the exposure is quite similar to their skin, and they weren't really popping out from the scene. They were kind of just blending into the background. But then I noticed there was this sun ray shooting at this spot right here, and the exposure was a lot higher, so I thought, hey, I'm going to put their heads and their bodies in that spot so they'll stand out from the background. This same shot right here, you can see that there is this huge trees and there's this dark exposure all around here, but then there's this light patch, and they put them there so they would stand out. So that's a great way of using exposure to compose the shot and to make the couple stand out from the photo, and to really just draw your attention to them and not just the backdrop. So try using these exposure techniques to just get good composition for your portraits.